To partially cover a rock with leather, first I made a pattern. Since each rock is going to need a customized pattern, they just don't come all in a certain shape and size. I covered it with masking tape going in one direction or around the rock, and then I put support for that by putting pieces around in the opposite direction like this, so that the pattern will stay together when I cut it off of the rock. Next, I cut a 1/4-inch piece of masking tape and I put it around the rock so that I could have the seams being in about the same place on all around the rock. It's nice if you don't have 1/4-inch masking tape, just cut a strip off of the tape that you have, because it's nice to keep changing it till it looks like it is just right, which if you just used a marker you wouldn't be able to change it so easily. So here's where my seam's going to go. I used this razor blade to cut right down the middle of the thin piece of masking tape. You could use an X-Acto knife or a utility knife, although I imagine this will kind of dull a blade, so I just use something expendable, and then pull back on this, and of course we're going to cut this tape over here as well, and then I'll have my 2 pattern pieces. I've cut my pattern pieces off and flattened them out on a file folder. Here I could not get it exactly flat, so I had to cut some little darts in here. So that'll be a more challenging place to put the leather over the stone, but I'm willing to give it a try. I put this little piece of tape to show that this goes on this side and then the other one goes on this side, because it's hard to know with such an irregularly shaped object. I added about 1/2 inch on both sides so I would have something to pull on. I flipped over one of the patterns and used my rotary cutter to cut these 2 pieces out, but you can also mark it with a gel pen and cut it out with scissors. So I'm ready to see how these drape over the rock. The next stage is a fun one. I wet both of these pieces of vegetable tan leather and then clamp them over the rock. They don't line up exactly as the flat patterns did because of the curvature of the rock, but that I think it turned out great. And by the way, you have to use vegetable tan leather. It's the only one that will keep a form when it's wet. So I'll now have to wait until this dries before I can make some stitching holes and stitch the leather to the rock. I like using this tool. It's from Japan, because I can get right close up. First I made a little mark with this stitching awl every 1/4 inch, and then I got close up to the rock with this tool and made my slits. So now I'll be stitching here and then doing the same thing on the other side, and my rock will be wrapped. I have this side stitched and then the excess cut off. And now I'm trying to very tightly, I made those slits as tight as I could close to the rock, and I'm using this hemp thread, but of course you can use anything that you have, and I'm stitching with this thread all the way to the end. Then I'll wrap around the end, stitch back, and tie a knot between the two layers here. So I'm almost done. I stitched with my thread to this end, wrapped around the end, came back and have both threads in between the two layers of leather. Then I'll tie a square knot, so I'm putting right over left and then left over right. And I'll clip the ends off when I cut off the excess leather here on this side. Here's my completed rock. I really like the way that it looks, and I want to make a lot more of these so I can have an assortment in a basket in my on my living room table.